Hey everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of the Fantasy Fiends show. I'm your host, Stevie Collier, and today I am, of course, joined by my bestest buddy, Andy Peliquin, a fellow best-selling author. And today we have someone for you, a very special guest who we should have had on a very long time ago, but that was before the Fantasy Fiends was a sci-fi show. So we are bringing to you Nick Cole. And guys, if you don't know who Nick Cole is, you've been living under a rock. He is the author of Galaxy's Edge. And I mean, whenever I was becoming an indie author, like just dropping my first book, Galaxy's Edge was the book to look to if you wanted success, if you wanted to learn marketing, stuff like that. Even Chris Fox kind of talks about them in one of his writing books. That's how I got to know Nick Cole first. So just kind of studying his blurbs. But yeah, we have Nick Cole. We're going to be talking Galaxy's Edge. We're going to be talking Purges. We're going to be talking some really cool shit today.
You know, before we get into this, Nick, I have to ask, how did you feel when you found out that Disney was using the name of your series when they were stealing it to make their ride?
I think I was flattered and honored, but you get a little suspicious. Like, at first, we were all kind of like, oh, wow, what a strange coincidence. But then, like, a lot of the readers and listeners and people that are in the Galaxy's Edge community will point out, like, there's an unnerving amount of similarity.
What?
And, people have suggested, like, are they cribbing? Are they cribbing our notes? Because The Mandalorian is very much Tyrus Rex. So it's interesting, but I think we were a little scared. So we contacted our IP lawyer because another.
Did we lose somebody, Andy?
Yeah, I think the audio's kind of wonky. Or the connection.
Who was
Oops. Do you want to mute him until kind of clears
off
up?
to be able to sue Disney? They said, hey, you owe us money, we're Galaxy's Edge, and we told them to pound sand. Just so you know, gorilla in the room. Hello?
Whoa.
Hello?
Yeah, so Nick,
I'm back.
Yes,
back.
There he is.
I'm very sorry about that. I went through a bad area, and I'm trying to get to a good area. So anyways, what I was saying about Disney is we contacted an IP lawyer, and he basically said, listen, Disney is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. So whatever they say is going to go. So he started negotiating with them and talking to them. And as we looked at it, we really did have first usage and everything like that. And in the end, Disney came back and acknowledged that. And we basically both went our separate ways without bothering each other. And our lawyer said, wow, that's amazing. I've never seen Disney do that. He said they usually just roll people. And so I'm glad we didn't get rolled.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Like, it's Disney,
Yeah, you're not going to get anything. I mean, I think people thought, oh, you've hit, they're going to have to pay you millions of dollars. I mean, I probably even thought that, but that's just not how Disney works. Disney usually, I mean, look, they literally, litigate against people who wear Star Wars costumes to kids with cancer's birthday parties. These are not nice people. So, just be honest about it. But like, you got to be careful when you're dealing with corporations because they really can take you to court for years and just wear you out.
Wow. Yeah, so I actually was doing some research on IP stuff, and I realized that Pokemon hasn't been the very best either. And like people who just want to do Pokemon giveaways, if you use like their Charmander or their Bulbasaur on your poster saying, hey, there's a giveaway over here, they'll sue you.
Yeah, they really
they'll
will.
Win. And this particular case actually went through with it, and it's shocking. But they really care about their IP. But that's cool that you kind of pushed away the 1,000-pound gorilla.
Only because we just happened, Jason and I will talk about how we came up with Galaxy's Edge. And I think we both swear that we came up with the name, but of course, I know that I did. But we came up with it like a year in advance. And I remember the conversation. We were just sitting there like, oh, what do we want to call it? And we had no idea that it would do that. We thought actually we were going to get more in trouble by that phone that's called the Galaxy's Edge, which is, I forget which provider that is, but
Samsung.
we thought we were going to get in trouble by that. But it's an interesting and funny situation. But I think ultimately Disney is going to walk away from Galaxy's Edge because the park opening was such a bomb. And I've even heard rumors now that they're actually going to retcon the sequel trilogy. So I think they're kind of learning their lesson. And I think that Galaxy's Edge is probably for them something that's going to get memory hold.
Huh. Interesting.
Their Galaxy's Edge, yeah.
When you say memory hold, I think I heard that right. What does that mean?
Memory hold is a term from George Orwell's 1984, in which basically, like, if there was an inconvenient truth that happened and you were confronted with it and it sort of wasn't agreed upon, then you put it in the memory hole and it was gone forever. So that, like, it never happened, and I think what we'll see with Galaxy's Edge Star Wars is that ultimately it never happened. Like that Christmas special. You ever seen that one?
I haven't actually seen it. I've heard of it though.
I have.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's fun to watch. It's beyond. It really is like when Rick James says in that sketch with Dave Chappelle, "Cocaine is a hell of a drug."
Seriously,
that sketch is the living embodiment, or that Christmas special, and I remember that as a kid, is the living embodiment of that.
The grandpa's watching porn.
The grandpa's watching space porn.
It's horrible.
The grandpa Wookiee is watching space porn.
But
amazing. There are other things. There's the Ewok adventure, and there's all kinds of things that Lucas. I mean, if you've ever watched that documentary, he retconned and memory hold a lot of Star Wars. So it's kind of when you look at the early Star Wars books that Brian Daley wrote when Star Wars was first kind of new and everybody was really excited about it. And the things that are in Brian Daley's books have nothing to do with Star Wars. So, like the Empire isn't even a thing. They call it the Syndicate. And, so it's, but is that wrong? I mean, this is not religion. It's just fiction. And so there's an argument for what Lucas did and what we all do. And, we've done that in Galaxy's Edge. We've had to fix things that we screwed up by retconning it a little bit. Yep. I mean, I think we're at 23 books. We're going to get some things wrong. But I prefer not to retcon. I prefer to go in and justify. So if I made a mistake and someone catches us out on it, what I really want to do is go in and say, because I was an actor for a long time and I studied at the Groundlings in LA. And what I learned is you can justify anything if you're willing to do the work. And by justify, I mean reconcile with the storyline. So, you would do that with other improv actors. You'd be doing a scene. You're like, hey, I'm working in a yogurt shop. And, doing your little imaginary stupid movements. And then some guy comes in and he's like, I've got a shotgun. And you're like, oh, welcome to my yogurt and shotgun repair shop. That's justified.
Yeah, classic improv.
Yeah, and that's, that's what writing, honestly, is writing anything more than classic improv? No.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. I would tell every writer, move to LA and study with the Groundlings and take basic improv. But if you can't do that, then go ahead and just take a basic improv class at your community college or some acting troupe. You will learn so much about how to free up and enjoy storytelling. And you'll even do these really crazy exercises where you kill your babies. You're like, oh, I'm going to do this gunfight scene or, fantasy. I've got this monster I really, really want to use. And I've just been salivating to do it. But when you sort of reach, I think, Jedi level storytelling, you'll play new choice where you go, okay, I'm not going to use the Tarask. I'm going to use a copper dragon. New choice. Okay, I'm going to use a Hydra. New choice. Okay, I'm going to use a Troll Lich. You wouldn't have got to Troll Lich if you didn't discard all the other things. And it's funny, when you do those things, your mind suddenly goes, oh my gosh, I never thought of a Troll Lich. Well, what would that do? And suddenly your storytelling grows exponentially.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Do you mind if I ask? So I kind of looked you up.
Are you going to ask for the stats on a Troll Lich? I don't have them.
I was actually going to ask you if you're who you're represented by in LA. As
an actor?
Yes.
I quit. I totally quit.
Oh,
and there was a moment Yeah, I had a manager. It was Tigertainment Management. I had another one, Lee Castle. That was my manager. She was a nice old Jewish lady, and her husband had been like a Disney filmmaker back in the 50s who made those. This is Kenny the Wildcat. You remember those ones? And her audit her agency was like the classic agency, like the classic Hollywood agency, like totally not A-list or anything like that, like more like Q list. And but she would get me, like I would get pizza commercials and stuff like that, so that was really fun. But there was a moment when my first novel, The Old Man in the Wasteland, was really doing well and I was making money. And my agent said, "Hey, I got a Saturn commercial for you where you're going to play like a fat frat boy Zeus." And my agent was convinced that I was fat. I'm not fat. I'm Irish. So I'm built like a bull. But I would go to these like auditions and there would be literally fat guys. So like a famous fat guy that's a friend of mine is Jorge from Lost. And we were in the ground league. So I would end up at like these calls with guys like Jorge. And I don't look like that. I look like, your drunken Irish bartender. So he could never, and so like I'm sitting there and I'm making money actually doing, writing and selling books. And he goes, I got this Zeus commercial for you. You want to go for Saturn? And I just said, no, I think I'm good. And that was the moment that I walked away from acting. But if Galaxy's Edge gets picked up for a streaming show, which it might, then I'll probably give myself a role. Yeah.
What? Oh, it's funny. I was an actor for a long time in California, and
cool.
I was with Osbrink. I don't know if you know them. They're for younger people. So,
right.
Yeah.
Were you a child actor?
I was, yes, but I would say I was 13 years old to 17, and I got really tired of having to go after the roles of big-nosed people and dorky people. And it really, it has an effect on young people. When you go into a room and everyone looks exactly like you, some are more muscular, those guys get the parts. I was right in the middle. I was either too muscular or I wasn't skinny enough for the dorky roles and stuff. So
you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a terrible phrase, but we actually do it to our characters too. But the rule of thumb in Hollywood is anatomy is destiny. It really doesn't matter how you can act or what you can do. You've got to look a certain way to play a certain part. And that's kind of stupid because all you learn in acting school is, like you're doing Our Town and your best friend who's 15 years old, he's playing Grandpa Jones. Like when you first start training as an actor, you play all the roles. When you get to Hollywood, man, you're lucky if you can stick one role and you can do that for the rest of your life.
Very true. Yeah. So I had that exact same experience whenever I got a part on Cartoon Network, and they changed me twice from surfer to car mechanic to surfer to car mechanic just by my hair. It was really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then after that, I told my agent, "Hey, I want to go after surfer parts." And I quit shortly after because it wasn't fun. Wanted to go to school.
It sounds like your career was better than mine.
Well, Cartoon Network didn't pay amazing or anything.
Right. No, and I know people who did voice work for them. Now, Nicole, she was on General Hospital.
Oh. I bet my mom knows you.
She was, what were you?
Well, it was short term.
Rio the stripper with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
There was no stripping.
But
it was like soap opera stripping. Which if you
cute outfits.
Yeah, if you just cute outfits at the club while the characters talk real seriously about their stuff. But like if you went to a soap opera strip club in real life, you'd demand your money back.
Nicole, did you have an evil twin, and were you ever in a coma? I feel like that's like soap opera 101.
I wish. Like if I was a longer term character.
There you go.
But no, it was pretty short. It was like a few episodes.
I like to remind Nicole every day that she is the evil twin.
No way.
I got a little bit confused. Now we have Nick and Nicole.
That's true. Yeah. And my name is Nick Cole. And she's
what?
Nicole.
That's crazy. Well, hey.
That was how we met at an audition. I said, you want to I did the actor thing. I said, you want to run lines? And she's like, sure. And I'm like, what's your name? And she goes, Nicole. And I'm all, score. That's my name too. And she's like, no, it's not. And so I pulled out my driver's license. I'm all, it sure is.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
And then
that's crazy.
basically she found out that I am the tattoo that does not wash off easily.
Oh, that sounds like that's awesome. Well, I got to say, I made some of my best friends when I was younger in auditions, just waiting because everyone's nervous, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's usually the place where I fanboyed a lot because I would meet people from the new Dragon Ball Z movie.
Right.
And it was so cool. He barely spoke English. He was from Korea, and I just remember fanboying all over him. I was like, that's probably why I'm not getting parts because I'm not being the famous guy, you know. It's like you got to go in there pretend like you don't care if there's a famous guy in there.
It is weird. I knew a lot of actors who they said you don't start really booking until you don't care anymore and you're actually ready to quit, and then you start booking.
That's weird. That makes sense.
I think that was actually what happened to George Clooney. He packed his car and was leaving town.
What?
And they said, hey, they said like he'd done like 11 pilots and all of them went nowhere.
Ooh.
And then they said, we got one more pilot for you. It's a doctor show. And he's like, I'm leaving. I'm going back to Kentucky. I'm going to do carpentry. And they went and they booked ER. And, you know,
oh, wow.
Apparently he's done well. Now he has now he owns Italy.
I think he did okay. I knew
He did okay.
Before we move on from acting, I just want to say I knew this kid who had 42 student films under his belt by the time he was 16 and hadn't got any role on TV. So it's a hard thing, I got to say. But when I saw that was another like, I think I have a better chance doing something else. But
yeah, exactly.
Monday, I'm a theater guy. I thought it was going to be like theater, but it was not theater.
No,
It's
better just to go and do theater for fun.
Exactly. I 100% agree. But also, so guys, we have an amazing topic for you today. But first, I have to ask Nick, what is something cool that might have happened recently so we can get a view into your life?
Let's see. I got my CCW.
Oh, wait. What am I thinking that is?
Let's see what you're thinking it is.
It's got nothing to do with porn, Stevie. I'm just telling you that right up front.
Oh, what? Well, he's got his shirt half done. I figured. It looks good. You actually look good in that, Nick.
I've been doing a lot of CrossFit. It's a Robert Graham. You know, it's pirate season here in SoCal, so you know we've all got to have flip flops and surf shorts and open shirts and eat sushi and put avocado and sprouts and anything. And I live in Orange County, which is a much different life than LA.
With Jonathan Yanez, I think, lives over there too.
Yeah, we go out to lunch and dinner, and the Yanezes are great. I love them.
I love the food in Orange County. I gotta say, I'm going surfing next week at a new surf park that just opened up. That's my good news. It's been my good news for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Oh, the one in Santa Barbara, Ventura.
No, I'm in Texas right now. It's in Waco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Waco.
It feels weird to think of a surf park in California. Right. Like, you know, that's like opening a desert park in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't understand it. My cousin, who's a big surfer in the surf industry, he goes and it's like they have train tracks and the steam engine or the freight engine drags this big thing through the water and sort of creates perfect curls. And so it's kind of for that whole crowd. But no, honestly, you know, you can surf San Onofre here. You could body surf the wedge and die here if you really wanted to be pro. But yeah,
I went and watched the wedge. And I was scared and I was on the beach. I was like,
if you don't go into the wedge, it's a smart call.
I caught a 7-foot wave in Hawaii one time, and that was as tall as I won, and that was an accident. Yeah, that was an accident. But funny story, I was at the surf park, and there was this guy, obviously from California, in Texas, and he turned to me and goes, what would he say? No sharks in perfect tide every day, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, we do have a lot of we have had like an above average amount of shark attacks lately.
Someone in Santa Cruz just died.
So and the rumor is that they're really coming in on shore for some reason.
Jesus.
So, you know, I don't know. Like, sharks don't play.
Yeah. Are you a surfer?
I used to be a body surfer and a boogie boarder, 80s. I've surfed a little. It's too much of a lifestyle. I don't want to get up at 5:30 in the morning and fight people at the beach, you know.
And they're not as nice as they make it.
No, it's not necessarily Point Break with Flea and Anthony Kiedis, and it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse, but it's also like when you get it and when you do it, as you know, it's an addiction.
Yes.
So I already have an addictive personality, so I'm very careful when someone says, "Hey, that thing is addictive." I'm like, "Okay," So, it's a big lifestyle commitment, but it's great for you.
Except for writing books, you went full head on into that addiction.
I'm addicted.
Absolutely.
I got to ask you, Nick, why did you get into writing?
I think I always wanted to write. I think didn't we all kind of like ever since we were little kids, and especially little boys, we read like Lord of the Rings in the 5th grade, and we're like, I want to do that. We just really wanted to tell sword fights and kill orcs and stuff like that. I always did that. I was in the military. I did it through the military. I started just practicing writing short stories, and that was back in the early 90s. So there was all the gatekeepers, and you had to do it that way. By 2005, I'd written my own kind of first novel, and I got a New York literary agent for it, and he couldn't sell it. And so then by 2011, I saw that Amazon was kind of turning into something. And, before that, self-publishing had a very, very bad reputation. So I didn't want to do that, but I'd written this sort of science fiction story that was basically a post-apocalyptic version of The Old Man and the Sea. And I gave it to my agent, and he said, "Oh, it's too much like The Road." And I'm like, "Yeah, but The Road is an Oprah book club selection. It's selling a lot of books. Why wouldn't you want this?" And I think he's like, based on the strength of I can't sell your first novel, which was a dark Hollywood comedy, why would I want to sell this? So I stopped, took my time, went over to Joe Conrath's site, learned everything that I could about indie publishing, and put my first book up, and I sold like 2 copies the first month. And I was like, yeah. And then I sold 8 copies the next month. At the 4-month mark, it just took off, and I was selling like 15,000 copies a month.
Whoa!
And then I sold about 69,000 copies, and then HarperCollins and all the big publishers were trying to grab indie writers in 2011, 2012. So HarperCollins grabbed me, and I spent a few years with them, and it was miserable, and I hate Trade Pub. They don't know what they're doing. They're big and they're stupid. They don't like indies. They don't like Amazon. They don't want to sell books. It's just a dinosaur. So, but they would get me to San Diego Comic-Con, and you would feel like you got to feel like you were a writer. You got to feel like you were on the Yankees. You just didn't get any money.
Yeah.
And and so then I had an opportunity to part ways with him. So I did. And then I went back to kind of publishing books on my own. I published 2, and it kind of went back to those sales numbers. And then Jason approached me. He's like, "Hey, I have a project, and we could write it together." And so we talked about that, and we discussed it, and we decided to write Galaxy's Edge. And then that just went right through the roof from day one.
Was Jason a friend, or was he just another big author at the time?
Jason was always a big author.
Okay.
We were all big authors, but I think Jason was newer than I was, and I was part of this publishing collective, let's call it, that was called Apocalypse Weird, and we were kind of trying to do the first shared universe, and there was a big name attached, and then he faded, and then it was kind of left to me and a couple of other people, and we tried to keep it running, and we tried to bring in new writers, and we were going to do like a shared apocalyptic world. And I kind of realized that I'm going to say something controversial here, and just take it with a grain of salt, and take it like if you know me, and obviously you guys and everything like that. But what I'm about to say, it's true. But writers are horrible people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, everyone who watches this show knows I am. So
yeah, but you guys are great, and the people that you really know are probably good people, but there are a lot of grade A assholes.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, they're the first ones to shoot other people in the back for success, or to cancel, or to pile on, and stuff like that. And so I decided, like, I got a good dose of that in that. I kind of realized that there were a lot of like people with serious personality flaws and I was kind of the biggest author in it. And I was trying to carry it, and I was doing all the work, and like there were some very insecure people. But I met Jason out of that, and he kind of approached me, and he had a marketing background, and he'd written his own first book, which was called Till Death. And he was working on a series, and we just kind of gelled. We just had the both same philosophical outlooks. We were both interested in true success instead of in writing. You can have false success. Like you can be, and I've met them, you can be a trade pub author and make no money and be broke, but be the big man at the con. And that's false success. The only actual success in writing, and this is probably another controversial thing, is money. And I know that's like, Gordon Gekko, 80s greed, but I'm here to tell you that's the truth. If you can't make money at this, you probably shouldn't be doing it. You should do it as a hobby because you enjoy it and everything like that. But don't pretend, it's a career, because it's not. You either make money at this by being successful and doing fan service, and that means something. But see, the danger of trade pub, what I learned is that they'll give you all the feels to make you feel like a success. They'll limo you to San Diego Comic-Con. They'll have someone to walk you around. You will be on a panel with very big personalities, and you will feel like a success, and you will literally probably have to, credit card your night at the hotel. Or have someone hopefully someone's going to have an open bar, so they can create this illusion of, and maybe that's fine when you're young, but do you really want to be doing that at 50? Do you really? And I remember one night I was sitting with my New York agent, and I was telling him, like, I know people in Amazon who are making a living 5 figures a month, 6 figures, a month. Some people, there's one person I think used to make seven figures a month, and they're paying off their parents' mortgage, and he was part of the sort of mainstream trade pub crowd who wanted to cancel Amazon. They hate Amazon, and he would say to me, "No one makes a living at this." Like the biggest names that of mid-listers, and not Stephen King or James Patterson or whatever, but most everybody in trade pub has another job. And I was like, "That's not true. I know people who are making a living doing this," and so that's an important thing to me, to make sure that you're doing it for the right reason. And the only reason is that you're making money doing it. You can have your own personal fulfillment things and everything like that. But the worst thing that you can do as a writer is love what you're doing and be frustrated by the fact that you don't sell any books. Because over time, that's going to kill you.
I would say more than like making money is selling books, in the sense that if you're writing this amazing story and no one reads it, you're not doing anything. So it's like the money is sort of the measure or the metric that you measure. It's like if you obviously if you put a book up for 99 cents and 100,000 people buy it, but you get $3,000 or something, it's not the way it works. But so the money is the metric, is probably the most accurate metric to gauge success of an author and their books and all of that, I would say.
And you need those metrics. And there's a brilliant philosopher, Ravi Zacharias, who put it to me this way. He said, money is nothing more than distilled life. That's all it is. Money is just a measurement of what you did with your life. But occasionally the market will convince you, hey, take all your books and put them in an omnibus and fire sale them for 99 cents. And yeah, you're right. You can sell 99,000 copies and walk away for $3,000 for everything that you're worth. Do you feel good about yourself? The answer is probably no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to applaud you, because so many people just kind of shy away from the topic of money, and just it's really, I love I never heard the idea that money is the kind of the gauge of what you did with your life, but I could see that now. It shows how much value you gave to your fellow man while you were living.
Right. Yeah, you can do great things with your money. No one says you have to get strippers and cocaine and go to Vegas like every developer in the world, but it's more like you need the thing that I'll tell you an interesting thing. When I was first rolling in Amazon and I was making that those 69,000 sales, I wasn't convinced that Amazon was true. I was thinking that maybe it was rigged, like maybe Amazon was padding the sales. You have to think about that, because what you want to think about as a writer is, can I be doing this in 2 to 5 years? Because the things that you're going to do once you have success is you're going to go, oh, you know what? I need to lease a BMW. Oh, you know what? I need to get married, and this person's going to depend on me. Oh, you know what? I need to acquire a mortgage. And you're doing that because you're really rolling on your series and you're making all kinds of money. But you need to make sure that's true before you invite that person into your life, acquire that mortgage, lease that car. You need to make sure that you're still doing that in 5 years. And what if it's just a con? It's not a con, but I was kind of afraid, like, what if this is a con? Because Amazon controls all the numbers and we don't know, we don't get to see. Or, what if this is just a fluke? So money is that way that you kind of check in and measure, like, is this true? Can I count on this? Am I doing what's right? And also it helps guide you against the false success when the sales start to slump and you fire sale your books. And like, the thing that everybody used to do, like, let's all get together and get on the New York Times bestseller list. And it's like, yeah, but you're not really a best-selling author. You and 20 of your friends did it together.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be claiming that. But writers, and in their defense, writing is a hard and lonely business. And sometimes you need to do stuff to feel good about yourself. But you also have to weigh that. You do have to pull out your bank statement and say, did this pay? And if it didn't pay, you could give up and quit, or you could do what I did, which is I was writing in post-apocalyptia. And then I talked to some people and they're like, whoa, Space Marine is doing really well. It sells really well. And I was like, well, I could kind of work Space Marine, but I'm a post-apocalyptic writer. But I could do Space Marine. Like, maybe sometimes the thing, like what we all do is, like everybody will give you these platitudes about writing. Write what you love and do all the, and those platitudes are true to a point, or open up a vein and bleed on the page and stuff like that. But it is a business. And you do, if the place where like surf culture, like if you're going to set up a restaurant at surf culture, you're probably going to have fish tacos, or you're going to have like a pizza by the slice stand. What you're not going to do is say, oh, this is my French bistro surfers. Come on in and eat. You like indie writing is very much pulp writing. We throw the hay down where the horses can get it. We're not too literary doesn't work in indie. Like you can't write what I call the lavender and croquet novel. You can't write Less Than Zero. You can't write these, big, you got to write pulp. You got to write Space Marines. You got to write dragon and guy killing dragon or girl killing dragon. You got to write things to just entertain people and not try to be a great writer. And you got to write them a lot, and you got to stay on the back of the tiger.
Do you think you have to be a great writer or a really good marketer or somewhere in the middle?
I think that you don't have to be a great writer. Amazon has proved that. Like there are people that sell and their grammar and editing is atrocious, and they sell like no tomorrow. Marketing, I think that probably helps, but I don't think that buying ads is marketing. I think the definition of marketing is now changing, and I think what people are seeing out of Galaxy's Edge and what we're trying to understand, and I think what Jason and I are going to try to do is try to help people and teach them. And you might ask, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to tell people what you're doing? Well, I want to raise the culture that's on Amazon. I want writers, all the writers, to get better, and I want everybody to sell lots of books. But to do that, they're going to have to up their game. They're going to have to stop their shenanigans. They're going to have to stop buying crappy covers. They're going to have to start paying for editors. They're going to have to stop the rapid release, book a day, book every week, blah, 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 trash. They're going to have to get as good at this as TradePub is. Now, why would I want to do that? Because I'm already doing it and I'm already making money. Because indies already have a bad reputation. And some of the things that the public says about us are true. We don't edit. We have bad grammar. We do have some crappy covers. There are people that use unscrupulous marketing tactics. Every time someone does any of those things, a reader picks that up and says, you know what? I'm not buying another indie book again. I've been ripped off for the last time. And ultimately down the road, that will hurt my sales. So Jason and I and some other authors started a marketing thing called Archer's Rest. It's not a marketing thing. It's like a think tank. And we have it in Napa once a year, and we get together and we talk about how to raise the culture. And I think what Jason and I are going to do is we're going to share our thoughts on branding, because that's the next step that every author has to do. How authors used to do it was they would write a book and then they would hope that it got successful. And then if it got successful, they would start doing a series. And all of that was reactive to what the market would bear. But if you're trying to create an IP or a brand 3 or 4 books in, you're not going to do it. How Jason did Galaxy's Edge, and Jason and Spock is responsible for Galaxy's Edge as a brand, because he knew exactly what he wanted to do from the very beginning. He wanted to emulate Star Wars and his love of it and create that culture. So, you know, we worked together as storytellers in building that universe, but Jason began to build it as a brand and an IP from before one word was written.
Wow.
And if you do that as a writer, if you approach it that, if you approach anticipating success instead of hoping for success, then you're much more qualified to take advantage of your success.
Very nice. Well, we weren't going to talk brand today, but man, I can't stop you because I love it so much. Andy,
hey, sorry, that could be the theme of this podcast now. I'll just go back and edit the description and change it up.
No, it's fascinating. Yeah. I love this because I've been studying brand, and I just hired somebody for our business, mine and my dad's business, to work on the brand. And there's so much that goes into it. You know, the story, who is your target audience? You know, how can you give them value? How can you sell the benefit rather than the specs of what you're trying to sell? There's
right.
And those sound easy to answer, but to me, I think they're pretty difficult. You just have to put yourself in the customer's, behind.
Yeah, it's weird. And you almost have to have somebody externally asking you those questions. But why that makes sense in writing is if you understand brand, you're halfway to understanding your audience. And the old Amazon approach was, oh, I'm gonna write space opera. Okay, well, what's the space opera audience? Clickety click. Oh, it's people who read Daniel Aronson and Isaac Cook, and that's space opera. Well, is that really space opera, or is that really a space opera audience? Or is it, and I'll just throw out some examples, is it guys who drive UPS delivery trucks and love sci-fi?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's the next twist that people need to figure out. It's not just the keywords. You have to find who, like in Galaxy's Edge, it's very much it's three certain groups of people who really identify with Galaxy's Edge and they buy it. And once we identified them, we were able to go ahead and find other people that are like them that are now in Galaxy's Edge. And so that branding, like establishing your branding, building your IP from the get-go and knowing who you're going to target really gives you a better shot at success and continued success instead of like, a year or two ago, it's like, oh, I hope you get a book bub. And a book bub was the worst thing that could happen to you. It's serious time. And so I think we're hitting a widening gap where we have pro authors and we have sort of hobbyists, but there aren't a lot of like, if you're coming in hoping to get lucky, you are planning to fail.
Would you say that's the same for acting?
Yeah.
Is it different?
No, because like I said, that anatomy is destiny thing is so critical. And then there are some freaks and there's no definable way to understand it, but there are some people that are infinitely watchable. And I don't know why that is. And no one knows why. But it's like you could watch Brad Pitt or Matthew McConaughey read the telephone book and you could sell tickets. They're just like, and that's just, you either have that or you don't. But some people have that watchability. With reading, honestly, I would try to tell everybody, take the pressure off and just tell a fun story, the kind of story that you want to read, like the guilty pleasure story for us, that's Space Marines kicking ass and blowing up aliens and having a good time, or Tales of Revenge, like, but it's just a story. I don't even think prose is all that important. I don't, think, I think twisty plots and trying to, back in old school publishing, you would go to an editor and you would say, it's Alien, but it's Alien with a twist. Oh, what's the twist? It's with Santa Claus, or like it's Star Trek Alien or whatever. Like that was how you tried to sell to Big Pub. You tried to sell a known thing with your genius twist. And that's really like embedded into the DNA of writers a lot. Be interesting, be different. Well, that doesn't actually work for the algorithm because what we found is the Space Marine crowd just wants to read Space Marine. They do not want to read Space Marine with a twist. Like, yeah, you can have twists and things like that, but don't try to get clever and say, oh, it's a Space Marine murder cozy. it doesn't really work. The algorithm really responds to stupid, to just like very basic concepts. Like, this is a Space Marine novel. Great, I have a mailing list of 10 million people who love Space Marine novels. They only buy Space Marine novels. They read one Space Marine novel and they put it down and they pick up the next Space Marine novel. They don't look for a twist. If you start putting in those twists, you start, you start confusing the algorithm with other genres, and the algorithm starts testing. Well, okay, let me shop this to a few murder cozy people. The murder cozy people look at it and they go, well, this is Space Marine. I'd never read murder cozy, so dumber is better.
I like that. It reminds me of studying Google search engine optimization.
Yeah, exactly. And this is all stuff that Chris Fox talks about, and he was absolutely right.
Oh yeah, was he? I think in the book he said he helped you, or did you help him? I can't remember that part.
He helped us.
Okay.
I think we confirmed some things for him just in our sort of like, the execution of what he said. But it was definitely, Chris Fox, I think, really honestly, and I've been doing this since 2011. It was really Chris Fox, the first one to say, you guys need to start approaching this through data science. What we were all trying to do is, go big, go wide, get lucky, try to get mentioned, on a national TV show or a national radio show, all things that happened to me. And then you'd see a few sales and then you just dive off. At first, Amazon was, the algorithm changes all the time. But in the early days, Amazon would just push the hell out of you for the longest time. I think my first novel got like several daily deals.
Oh, wow.
Because there wasn't a lot of, stuff on there, and they had what they wanted to push. So, but now Amazon, has the luxury of, it's become more of a paid marketing thing. And I think that's a deception. I don't like to badmouth Amazon because I really honestly, people don't appreciate what Amazon did for content creators and really knocking down. KDP was an absolute revolution in the culture. Having said that, I don't think that ads work, and I think that people are treating it sort of like E-Trade 1999. And I think they're hurting themselves by trying to, like, maybe I can buy myself some rankings. But people that I talk to who spend money on ads, they would tell you, like, when you adjust and everything like that, you really don't get any plus out of the ads. You might make more money, but you spend more money. It doesn't do it. You actually have to. That's why building a brand and building an IP will do so much better than just running ads. And if you look at the ad space right now on Amazon's pages, like, it's confusing. The also bots are confusing, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We're in a state of change.
So if you think, ads are the, not the answer to helping to build your brand, how would you get your product in front of someone to build your brand? Word of mouth? But then you can't do word of mouth.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I think that the best way to get your product, if you're gonna, I think it's still a really valid way, is to do it the tried and true way, which is to link up with other authors who maintain good email lists, and hopefully they're a little more successful, and hopefully they're willing to trade you. But if you're gonna launch a Space Marine novel, find Space Marine authors who are willing to do email swaps for you, because the chances are that someone who is on a known author's email list is a genre reader of that genre. And that person, like, doing their next blast, they're talking about their next release, and then down at the bottom they say, oh, and Stevie Collier, he's got a new book out, and it's a cover that absolutely grabs the attention, absolutely says Space Marine, absolutely has a Space Marine description, and even probably says Space Marine in the title. You're probably going to grab those people. Those people are going to read that book. They're going to purchase that book. The algorithm is going to say, oh my gosh, this must be a Space Marine book. I'm going to start organically recommending them. But ads, no, I don't think so. I think, I still think, that you can't use social media to find people, but you can use social media to curate people. So once they've come to you, you direct them to your Facebook group, and then you begin to encourage them to evangelize to other Space Marine readers without you just blasting it on your channel.
Wow. Awesome. That was man. Everything's changing so much. But
Yeah.
it's getting late, so we gotta jump into the reading. Is that possible?
Okay.
Are you driving?
Yes, you guys will have to read.
Okay, we'll do the reading then. So we're doing Andy.
I may direct.
Yes, please do. That's exactly what we want you to do. It is Requiem for Medusa by Nicole. You have it up?
Yep.
And Jason Ansbach.
Oh, yes, and Jason Ansbach. He's got Spock right in his name. That's not fair.
Spock.
That's just not fair. Awesome. So, Nick, do you want to tell us a little bit about the scene?
The opening chapter, Requiem for Medusa, is just a straight up. If you liked The Mandalorian, you will like Requiem for Medusa. Requiem for Medusa was, again, one of those products that beat Disney to the market, and then Disney suspiciously came up with it. But if you like space bounty hunters, and it's a tale of revenge, and guys shooting it out and killing each other, but we wanted this chapter to feel like a good opening James Bond movie. We wanted to get right into the action, right into the desperation. And, when we began to talk to Audible, they released some data to us, and they said, what we have found is if you don't grab those listeners in the first 15 minutes, they won't finish the listen. So you've really got to come out of the sort of box when you write swinging, get right into the action. Don't feel like, and that's sometimes as a writer, when we're doing a new project, we have a tendency to kind of like feel our way through the story. Have you ever noticed that it takes a long time to write the first part of the book, but by the end you're just cranking through it because you've got it all in your head?
That's definitely the way I do it.
And that's okay, but when you go back and edit, try to make that first part feel way more urgent. Right into the story, right into the action, right into the pulp, because that's what people love. Amateur authors, they want to get into it was the year of this, and this was his, let me info dump till I've figured out where the hell I am in this story. No, just have him fight a lizard man to the death.
Sounds familiar. So awesome. So we have like well, I don't want to call it the Mandalorian because you were there first, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So who are our characters, and who do you want to play each character? I usually play the females just because I'm talented.
This is Tyrus Rex is very much like Clint Eastwood, Josh Brolin, and I think he's just kind of on a killing spree. I think there's a whiny guy in there. So who wants to play the tough guy?
Well, in the beginning part, there's only just the team 1 and team 2 that are talking.
Oh yeah, those are the thugs coming to kill Tyrus Rex. So those are all kind of like
why don't we do this, Stevie? You do the narrative, and I'll read all the thug voices.
That sounds good. Are we just reading chapter 1, Andy?
Yeah, just that first bit till it goes to 02, just because it's almost out of time.
Awesome. All right, Nick, let's get right into it. We're doing Galaxy's Edge: Requiem for Medusa by by Nick Cole and Jason Ansbach. Chapter 1: Sky City, Aetheria 9. Wait, was that 9? Yeah, 15 years before the Battle of Kublar. The old freighter came into view beyond the hangar portal of the upper disk of Sky City. Out there beyond the shield, swirling pink and azure clouds bespoke the violence of the storms that chronically plagued the planet's upper atmosphere. There was other traffic besides the old freighter, but the hitmen who'd been set to intercept this particular ship, a beat-up old bird that looked like it had traveled from one end of the edge to the other and seen plenty of smuggling runs and close calls, didn't much notice the traffic. They had a paid contact in approach control who tagged the ship the moment it entered Atmo, and they were ready for it.
It's him,
noted the leader of Team 1 over comm channel.
He's been cleared for Dock 3501. Team 1, stand by to engage as soon as he kills the engines. Boss says
Andy, you're hired.
Boss says the big boys are paying a 50% bonus off the top if we take him out now. So let's take him out now.
Team 1's leader switched comm channels.
Team 2, he's here. Remember, you're on backup. Watch customs and don't get in our way. We can be patient,
hissed back the leader of Team 2.
We'll get him one out on the main concourse if he gets by you. Pays the same no matter who drops him. If he gets by us, and he ain't.
The word was passed through the teams. It was almost showtime. Had they been ex-military, adept at what they were about to do, there would have been calm confirms and then silence. Instead, some kind of alien slang babble erupted like an electronic chitter over the ether. They were excited for the money and more excited for the kill. You wouldn't make the mistake of calling them professionals. But none of that mattered to the cartel. It didn't matter that none had served in the Legion or learned to kill professionally in some other military organizations. They were still dangerous. Each and every one of the hired blasters was a stone-cold killer. That was the ticket that had drawn them for the minor leagues of the galactic backwaters and given them a chance to earn some real credits in the bigs. This was a tryout for a major crime syndicate. And now here they were, beyond the quiet and ever-gloomy docks, out along the station's main disk, assigned to take out a target before it could reach the main hab sections of Sky City. Team 1 had been scattered across the docking decks, knowing that approach control would send the incoming freighter right to them. The cartel had sprung for that trick. The hit was a go. In the outer corridors beyond the bays of the main access passage, shadowy blues mixed with the occasional yellow flashing hazard strobe as each hitter ran across the docks to arrive at Bay 3501 before the target. Even with all that paid intel, the ragtag collection of humans, along with a few aliens who thought they were trick with a blaster rig, barely reached the target's docking bay in time to meet the landing freighter. Using a smart lens, Team 1 leader watched a miniature feed from the dock's inner holocams. He saw the ancient freighter flare its venting repulsors and deploy her 3 main gears to touch down on the deck. In the background, the force field barrier and that shielded the docking portal from the upper atmosphere of Aetheria 9 shimmered slightly as the storm surging around Sky City continued its dramatic approach. Brief surges of lightning illuminated distant purple fronts from within, turning the storms into the ghosts of lost titans from some mythic age.
Righto,
said the team leader. He was a tall and wiry Tamo who'd once been hung from a light pole out along the edge of the galaxy because the local populace had tired of his shenanigans. His gang had been able to cut him down and revive him, but the rope burns, not to mention the broken neck, had never quite healed right. He had always been a leader and generally kept a positive outlook on life, but he was a nasty piece of work when he drank, and even nastier in a blaster fight.
Engines are shutting down. Go on 3. Put him down fast, boys.
All around him, thugs and killers, ruiners of lives from all points along the galactic edge, checked their blasters one last time. One of them, a Lahurazian snake man, hissed a sideways comment about not needing so many others to do such a simple job.
I can do this job myself. I am more than match for some lone bounty hunter scumbag.
Cartel blasters, like most criminals, hated bounty hunters in the Bronze Guild that represented them, for the simple fact that it was often the bounty hunters who meted out the justice demanded by the citizens. Because on the edge of the Galactic Republic, actual government or even basic law enforcement wasn't a given. So the Bronze Guild brought justice, all the justice those in places like the Reach were ever likely to get. Justice that the galaxy's dregs who called themselves hired blasters were often on the receiving end of. Blast doors separated the killers from the docking bay where the old freighter had landed. They weren't very sturdy, probably not vacuum resistant. The assassins could hear the engines of the ship cycle down from a high-pitched whine to a slow blare, and then to nothing but the tick and rattle of cooling metal, leaving the bay in a dread silence of anticipation.
Ready.
The team leader began, feeling the nerves in his stomach.
On 3. What's the name of the freighter?
Someone asked. The team leader glared at the man.
The Obsidian Crow. On 3. That's a stupid name. What's a crow?
The team leader continued on.
2, 1, go.
The blast doors slid open. The killers formed into a rough wedge and entered the wide, shadowy bay, their blasters out. Before them sat an irregular slab-shaped freighter with the central cockpit cupola. Her leading edges were blunt like a clenched fist, defying their intrusion into its presence. An ancient rust-red paint stripe, chipped and scarred by old battles and a lack of care, ran along her sides, contrasting with her sometimes shiny but mostly dull black metallic hull. She rested on 3 solid-looking gears. No boarding ramp had been yet lowered. The risks now was of the target realizing the danger and flying away. But Team 1 was full of blasters, and just as Team Leader was on the verge of ordering everyone to shoot until the ship was disabled, the old freighter vented billowing hot white gas in every direction, filling the bay in a dense and humid fog. The team leader switched over to infrared visual, but the hot steam had spiked the temperatures in the bay, making everything glow white. A moment later, the team leader's head exploded. A pulse blaster shot had come from a high-powered VIN automatic close support sniper rifle. Its internal suppressor, matched with its octagonal silencer system and charging baffles, muted most of the shot. The only sound that could be heard, if anything could be heard above the venting hiss of the engines, would have been something akin to the flash and bang of ancient camera equipment. The gas had come in so quick and hot that the deck was no longer visible. One of the killers stumbled over his team leader's headless corpse and began shouting that they were under attack already. By that time, the unseen sniper had taken out 3 others with quick and accurate fire. By the time the last of the venting gases had been cycled by the bay's air filtration system, not a minute later, all of Team 1 lay dead on the deck of the docking bay. None of them had fired a shot.
That's definitely got a very Mandalorian feel to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could see you if you got there. Wow, it reminds me of actually a few scenes of The Mandalorian, which is cool that you were able to get there first.
Yeah, and if you read chapter 2, what you find out is that the bounty hunter dropped upside down outside of the landing gear and stabilized his rifle on the bottom of the hull and started shooting, using the gas as cover. A lot of people like that opening chapter. They like Tyrus Rex. He was a character that was introduced in book 1 at the end of the book. He's the founder of the Legion. He's about 2,000 years old. He's basically Obi-Wan Kenobi with Alzheimer's. He's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett with Alzheimer's. He's lived so long, his mind's a little sketchy, but he's an absolute killer. So he's a really fun. Yeah, he's a really fun character to write. When you lock in on that character, like he's a very classic character, like Conan, or just that sort of like very simple, revenge-oriented, tough guy character. But he turns out to be a lot of fun to write. He's very straight arrow. He doesn't say a lot. But what's fun is to surround him with other characters. And throughout this book, he gets, a bot that's very C-3PO, and he meets a lot of other characters. But Requiem for Medusa is a really fun, if you don't want to get into all of Galaxy's Edge, it's a fun-off, just bounty hunter tale. It's a fun book. We really liked writing it.
That's awesome.
The cover is awesome. I love the armor. That is so cool.
Yeah. That was done by one of the lead Blizzard artists who worked on Diablo 3, Trent Kainuga. So when I talked about like, hey, we've all got to up our cover games and stop buying that same starship, that you're all buying or whatever it is, you really do. Like there are a lot of great art, especially now after the pandemic. There are a lot of people that you can approach and get great art from. We have to get away from the $20 and $50 and $200 covers, and we have to put our money where our mouth is, because as Chris Fox will tell you, cover is 90% of buy decision. If you are a guy who likes bounty hunter tales or Space Marine stuff and you see that cover, it's a no-brainer decision. You're going to buy that cover, especially if the description is good. And I think that description is really good. But I've done all the work that I can do to sell that person a book.
What made you go with that cover though? Was it your idea to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd always kind of seen him as a Boba Fett armor kind of guy. So we just explained it to Trent. This is what we want. We want it very intense. And then that's one of Trent's styles, and he showed it to us. If you look at the second book in the series, all of these books are standalones. And I want to write like 57 of them because it's very Mac Bolan. If you ever read Mac Bolan back in the 80s, that's what it's basically space Mac Bolan. But the second cover in that series, Chasing the Dragon, is one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. It's Chasing the Dragon. It's very samurai. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, that is cool. Yeah, really.
Yeah, and that was a throwaway sketch that he did. He was like, "Do you want this one or this one for the first book?" And I would like both, please.
Very nice. Well, awesome. Yeah. Nick, I usually ask people, where can people find you, but it's pretty obvious.
I'm everywhere.
He's everywhere.
I'm everywhere.
Are you wide?
I'm more big than wide.
He's more.
Oh, you mean no? I think Amazon's the only game in town.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
It really is. You can do. I mean, it would be great if there were other things, but again, I'm a really big Amazon fan because I wrote books before Amazon came along, and I realized what that was like to have gatekeepers. I think we're seeing a little bit of that now with sort of politics. Like if you don't fit a certain mold, you're not going to get published. Well, the great thing about Amazon is that it doesn't see any of that stuff. It just lets you put it up, and then guess what? The readers get to decide if you should be published or not, and if you should be read or not. And I absolutely value that system. I love the fact that you get to go into Thunderdome and put your book up, whatever it is. And, you can write some weird stuff, or you can write, there's people that think about Lit RPG. Do you think anybody in big publishing would have ever published Lit RPG? Oh, I'm just going to write down my World of Warcraft adventures with stats. And look how much everybody enjoys that. The Big Pub would have never allowed that genre to birth. Amazon literally birthed a new genre organically because someone's believed in it, and that's a beautiful thing. And as long as we get to do that, as long as we get just a chance to have an idea and try it out, that's beautiful. And so I totally support Amazon. I love Amazon. It's the only game in town, but I'll still call balls and strikes. And the strike is, no, I don't think the ad service is working. I don't think writers are served by that ad service.
You can tell by the the $1.20 minimum.
Yeah, I walked away from it 6 months ago, and I was like, nah, this is not figured out. And it's not necessarily all Amazon's fault. I mean, there are people that are gaming it and blowing it out, but it's just it's gonna hurt people, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I know I spent nearly $15,000 on it, so in the course of 2 months, and I was like, oh my god. Luckily, I got it back, but that could have gone back.
You guys might be a little young, but do you know what I mean by the reference E-Trade 1999?
No,
E-Trade 19 E-Trade. So during the first .com revolution, there was a service called E-Trade, and they would basically let you have a stock account and buy stocks and bonds. And what happened is a lot of people over leveraged and ended up losing millions of dollars, and then killed themselves.
Wow.
And I don't think, I think it's a system that with a certain kind of addictive person, if they try to treat it like a casino, if I spend this much money and I win, it all gets better. Well, yeah, but what if you don't win and you owe that money and your family was depending on that money? I'm very much about writers' families, they're as much in this as you are. And they're depending on your success. So you have to be careful. You have to be sensible. You have to be honest with yourself about that money being a metric before you put their lives in jeopardy.
Very true. Well, wow. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. And thank you so much for being on the Fantasy Fiends show.
And thank you for so beautifully reading our book. Honestly, it was a beautiful read. The voice acting, the character acting was you come to Hollywood. No, don't waste your life.
Yeah,
but you guys,
it's way too competitive.
Thank you for reading that. That was great. That just made my day.
It's the whole reason we started this podcast. It's because I have so much fun with it.
Yeah, we love doing the readings. Awesome. Well, that is it for this episode of the Fantasy Fiends show. We hope you enjoyed your stay here with us. We look forward to having you next week, or actually next week's my birthday. Andy, we don't have a show on my birthday, right? Thursday?
On Thursday, we absolutely do. So we're going to have to switch it to Wednesday.
Yes, let's move that to Wednesday. That should work. Sorry, Nick, not to do scheduling while you're on the air with us.
I'm groovy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. Guys, we'll see you next week for another awesome show episode of the Fantasy Fiends show. Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Nick. Thank